listening to Forge Theater Labs.
Where does that idea come from?
A podcast devoted to exploring theater history.
Is anything that original?
Concepts and storytelling.
Isn't that just an assumption?
And the creation of theater from behind the scenes.
How do they even do that?
This is Forge Theater Labs.
History, innovation, perspective.
Welcome to Forge Theater Labs. I'm Josh N Hsu, your host, and I am so excited to invite Countercurrent to join us in our roundtable series. John and Courtney have been partners in life, art, and business for over 20 years, and recently founded Belfast's newest immersive theater company, Countercurrent Collective, dedicated to bringing adventurous, thought-provoking theater and dance to Mid-Coast Maine that inspires conversation and creates space for transformation. You can find out more at becountercurrent.com, but welcome, John. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Josh.
Thanks so much for joining us. So I have a quick icebreaker because I know that you all do immersive art. And so let's start with the most important question of the night. If your life were turned into an immersive theater piece, where in your house would it take place?
Oh my. I mean, can it be, I'm going to say mine would be in our 1987 VW Volkswagen van, which we lived in for 3 years, because we're writing a little musical about it. So that's where mine would take place.
John, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you stole my idea, but we're actually thinking of doing a piece where the van, we build the set piece of the van and sort of comes apart and shows all the little pieces of how we lived as 4 people in, I think, like 37 square feet. So yeah, so that would be a good one. But the place we live in now is a tree house, and so that would also be a really great place to do an immersive piece. It would have to be a single person immersive event where you come through individually and see our tiny little treehouse where we live in a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 people.
Incredible. Mine would be the fridge. It would just me be looking at the fridge, searching for the next snack because I am hungry. And so, you talk a little bit about this sort of van. I'd love to hear, just for our listeners, like, how did you two meet? How did this sort of wonderful relationship creation start?
Well, we think we met in theater school, crawling around on the floor in the dark, pretending to be different animals and sort of vibing on the energy of everyone in the room. Like, oh, when you touch this person, do you get a good feeling or not? Do you want to engage more? Or do you want to move away? And we think that we may have first really met like in that dark space. And from that, we built a career where we've kind of just been doing that for the last 20 years, like getting together with people, collaborating, and just seeing where the journey goes. So that's like the first moment. What do you got, Courtney?
Yeah, that was at CU Boulder. We went to school, we got our BFAs in theater performance there. And then from there, something that I thought was going to be a one-night stand, John said, I'm not going anywhere. And here he is. No, it's been wonderful. It's been an amazing journey. And yeah, so that's where we've met. And then we jumped right in after college. We moved to Denver and we both did theater professionally right out of the gates, which meant a lot of touring shows for kids. And John was a reenactor at a museum, and I was a balloon artist, birthday party princess, so lots of very dignified acting gigs through the years.
As we all have. So how did you end up sort of landing on immersive art? Was this something that in college that you sort of said, this is the type of theatrical experience that I'm interested in? Was it something that you discovered through the process? I like to say for myself that I was a little bit later to the process with immersive theater. And so for me, it was a discovery later in life that I was like, this is what I want to do. How did you
Hmm.
come across, immersive theater?
Yeah, I think I definitely also came late to the process. We came late to the immersive game. I had the privilege of working at Curious Theater Company in Denver for many years, and their mission was to engage the community in important contemporary issues through provocative modern theater. So I had the opportunity to do new work that had just been on Broadway or off Broadway that was tackling really important issues. So, and then one of the unique things that Curious did was we would have a post show discussion after every single performance, which is pretty rare. And so we could engage with the audience right then, and that in a way was kind of my introduction to immersive theater in the sense that like I was hearing what the experience that people were really having, and while we were pretty much doing regular plays, proscenium plays. um, that's the spark that got me thinking like how do people get more engaged, how do we like more deeply respond to how people engage with the work, and what kind of issues does it bring up for people. And so then when we started moving into making our own work, that was really at the forefront of it more than any of the sort of aesthetic or like staging qualities. It was more about like how can we how can we bring the audience's um, experience more deeply into the storytelling. Yeah.
Courtney, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, during the time when we first started making our own work, I owned a wedding and event planning business at that point. And I was really recognizing how the flow of a wedding was very theatrical, or the flow of an event was very theatrical. And I loved being able to be behind the scenes and be like a puppeteer in these events and create an experience for the guests that felt completely effortless and seamless. And so, from that idea with the weddings and events, John and I were like, why don't we make theatrical events? Could that be a thing? So, yeah, we were really started to brainstorm bringing these two parts of us together, and so that was kind of really when it started.
And it happened to coincide with the kind of rise of immersive in Denver, I think, like right as it was reaching Denver. And so we were also getting a lot of feedback and a lot of like practice at like the budding immersive scene. So we sort of got to start when everyone else was starting once it finally reached our market.
Yeah, and one of the first things I did in my wedding planning business that was an immersive experience before I even knew that was a thing was I held a LGBTQIAP plus engagement party event called Pride and Unprejudice, where we would have all these queer owned or ally wedding vendors at this party for people who would come in who were engaged or engaged curious. And it was a free event and they could peruse. And then what we would say was every year it was the same shtick where my assistant would come up to me. I was giving an announcement saying, "Thank you so much." And she'd come up and whisper in my ear and I'd say, "Now? Okay." And I would say, "Well, I guess the love is infectious. It's in the air. So I guess a couple who's here tonight wants to get married right now." And everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh." And we would have this raucous drag show that would happen. And that was really fun. And so that was something that I did a couple years before we even heard the word immersive. So
It's interesting, like it's always in these different spaces. For me, it was, the idea of immersive theater really came into light when I saw people rehearsing a dance routine in a garage. And the level of engagement, that level of excitement that people had around this sort of improvised dance that was occurring with storytelling, with rap, like it was just a garage in LA. And I was it just blew my mind. And I was like, this is what theater could be in a different way, where, we have people up on their feet, screaming, hollering, engaging. And obviously, immersive theater is different for everyone else. So with all that in mind, how did you end up in Belfast? From Denver to Belfast, what was that journey and what was that all about?
I mean, I think like a lot of people, as we were coming into 2020, we had a ton of stuff going on. Like life seemed like it was moving really, really quickly. We had hit on this idea of creating immersive events. We had done this big show about tango with some friends of ours who are a Mexican American psychedelic rock band. We had them score this show about tango. It had stage combat in it. It had clowning in it. They allowed us to work with them to rearrange some of their songs to fit the story, and it had like this amazing tango dance as well. And we did that, and we thought like we had that feeling of like the dream becoming a reality. Like we had had this idea 6 months prior of the end of the show where the sun is rising again and this couple is doing this incredible dance, and this street in Buenos Aires is coming to life again in the morning. And we looked at each other, we were like, oh, that's the moment that we had seen in our mind, and here it is. It's in real life, it's on stage. And we thought this is what we want to do. And so we were moving into doing another piece about jazz in Denver and in the historically Black neighborhood of Five Points when COVID hit. And at that point, Denver had gotten really, really busy. And we did one or two Zoom shows, plays on Zoom. And we were like, nope, we're out. We cannot connect in this way. It was like, in your bedroom, you're like basically people are just watching you rehearse in your bedroom.
It's the opposite of immersive theater.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, isolationist theater. So we also noticed how busy Denver was getting, and we decided to completely escape our lives. Basically, we got rid of everything we owned, and we moved into that van that Courtney mentioned with our two kids, and we just took off. And we traveled all around the country working on farms. And we honestly didn't know if our art would come back. Like, we didn't know if or when it might reemerge. And we spent a good 3 years just checking out, kind of, and looking at different ways of living and really connecting with little communities all across the country, and listening instead of speaking into the conversation so much, just listening to like what people's values were, what they wanted, and giving our kids a really unique perspective on a lot of different ways that people live. And so we'd seen a lot of the country, and we kept trying to make community in certain places, and it wasn't working out. And we read this profile of Waldo County and Belfast, Maine, and we came to check it out, and we immediately knew it was the spot. We just felt like we'd kind of been drawn there. Landed here, still working on farms. Yeah, and it took a while for the art part of it to emerge, even in this community.
Understandably. I mean, all of us sort of retreated during the pandemic from the arts. And then, I found myself busier than I was before I was in the pandemic with making art. And I feel like there was that sort of urgency, like it had all bottled up and then exploded. And it's really great to see these small communities and these really innovative forms pop up in these small communities, because I think that's a great way to sort of re-engage with our community and tell people, hey, theater is relevant. We tell your stories. And I think that's something really fascinating that I find about what you're doing. Um, if you could share with our audience, what is Countercurrent's mission or philosophy?
Yeah, Countercurrent's mission is to create adventurous and thought-provoking theater and dance happenings that incite conversation and create space for transformation. And that really came from listening to our community, because what John said, that it took a while for our art to reemerge, it was really because of our community that the art came back. We were doing the typical thing, looking for land and thinking we were going to be off-grid goat farmers, um, looking around, trying to do the thing. And it was so interesting because our community, as they got to know us, were like, we have so many farmers and they're really good at what they do. Like, what else do you provide? Like, what else do you do? And we were like, oh, well, we used to do theater and events. And it was instant that our community was like, oh, do that. That's what we want here. So it was a real gift. Belfast really, the people here really inspired what we're doing. And yeah, so part of our mission is that it's inspiring conversation. We want people to come together to experience something unique and adventurous that might not be completely comfortable, but we're going to hold you in a really safe container and we're going to hold your hand the whole way. And then by the end, we're going to talk about it. And it's like we've been through something meaningful together as a community. And yeah, and through that, we feel like that's where the space of transformation really happens, is we take this risk together. Every night of a performance is a little community of its own. And it's beautiful. It's been a beautiful thing to really see our communities trust us with this new wacky immersive experiences that we're providing. It's been really beautiful.
Can you speak about one project recently that embodies that kind of collective spirit that you mentioned?
Yeah, well, the first show that we did was The Aliens by Annie Baker. And we set it in a site specific location right on Main Street behind the shop. And it made us realize, how much like educating and engaging we needed to do with the community, because even just us saying you're not going to know where you're going until we lead you there, people were like, whoa, wait, what do you mean? How am I going to get there? When am I going to know? And so we had to navigate every step of the process of getting them to kind of take a risk with us. And we kind of snuck them into this little desolate back patio, and did every single show outside. We didn't rain out a single one. We had an actual restaurant right behind us with all of the soundscape that provides, of dishes clanking and being washed, and staff having these conversations. And it added this whole other layer of immersing people and feeling like they were really there. And so many people said it felt like they were just coming in and eavesdropping on this conversation. We also made it incredibly intimate. So we had like 18 people at the beginning, in a little kind of half circle. And they were right there, like right just feet away from the performers. And that was something that a lot of people had never experienced before either. So yeah, it was really gratifying to see them lean in, because we thought, oh, we're coming into this town, we're from away. And there are a lot of sort of assumptions that come along with that. And people are hungry for it. I think that's the other thing we're seeing post COVID, is like people are hungry for a new way to engage. I'm convinced they don't want to just sit in the dark and watch things go by. They want to be more involved. And this was a really affirming way to do that, and kind of set the momentum for us to continue the work that we're doing.
I love that. I'm going to pick up on the phrase that you said, lean in, because as a director, when I see an audience member physically lift up and actually lean in to the performance, that's when I'm the most excited, because they're engaging in a different way. I do love that idea of like re-engaging intimacy. Like, what does it mean to be an intimate part of an audience? Is it you are in the experience itself? You are right inches away. You are sitting above it. You are sitting below it. I think that relationship between audience really engages the experience itself. Um, how have you thought about that in terms of like, when you're setting up your immersive piece, like where is that conversation with where is this audience going to go?
Oh, I love that. I think like what John was saying, the days of sitting in the dark are over. They definitely are for Countercurrent. And each show, so we've done 3 shows because we're just hitting our 1 year birthday. So we've done 3 shows so far. And each one, the audience has gotten just inches closer to the performers. But one of the things we really love is having performer and audience on the same level. We really have noticed the level of engagement with our audiences by being eye level with the performers, or in Circle Mirror Transformation that we did in February. There's some scenes where the performers are laying on the ground. And so the audience are above looking down. And they really commented on that. They were like, I felt like I was right in that theater class with you. I felt like when you were doing the counting game, I wanted to say 10 so bad, and we've just noticed that there's this, you can't really check out when you're right there with people who are putting their whole heart and soul out there. And it's really beautiful to witness. And that's what we say to our audiences. We say that this is a conversation, right? This is no longer, we are just up here performing. This is, theater's always been a conversation between the audience and the performers, but being on the same level really blends us in a way that it's really hard to describe, but that's a beautiful thing for us.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with John and Courtney from Countercurrent Collective. This is Forge Theater Labs. Hey there, Josh N here. If you've been enjoying our episodes and the stories we bring to life, there are a couple of easy ways that you can help us keep the fire burning. First, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And if you want to take your support to the next level, you can buy us a coffee or even join our Patreon, helping us create more bold, design-forward, and innovative theater experiences. You'll find all the links on our website at forgetheaterlabs.com. Your support, whether it's a subscription, a donation, or just sharing the show with friends, makes a huge difference. Thanks for helping us forge ahead. At Forge Theater Labs, we want this podcast to be as collaborative as it was when we created it. That's where you come in. Have an idea for a future episode, a guest you'd love to hear from, or just thoughts on how we can make the show even better? Feel free to email us at info@forgetheaterlabs.com. Your voice shapes the stories we tell, so don't be shy. Let us know what you think. So, welcome back, everyone. I'm Josh N Hsu. This is Forge Theater Labs, and we're talking to Courtney and John from Countercurrent Collective. I am really interested in how creators decide what they're going to do, right? How do they land on a season? How do they choose the work that's important to them to produce at a specific time? And so I guess we call this the why now test. So my question to you is, what does the why test mean to you? Is it like an industry standard that we all have? Is it like a self-made test? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think several years ago, working at a regional theater with a mission to do work that engages people in important issues, I think my answer would be different back then, because that was the main criteria that we did. We said, let's let's do the thing that needs to be talked about right now, which I think is incredibly admirable. Now, with my own company in a small community instead of a big city, my answer is different. And we've touched on it a little bit already, but for me, it's like being responsive to the community that you're in. And listening deeply to what they care about and what they're grappling with, and then giving them an opportunity to practice grappling together with a piece of theater that they can respond to. It's like a conduit for them to work through things and express things in a different way. And so really surprisingly, as we've been making work here in Belfast, the community has been guiding us to the work that we're doing way more than I ever thought that I would be a part of something like that. And it's allowed us to actually reach into the community and make work with community members, so that everyone else actually sees people that they know and that they're connected with in the work.
Can I ask you for a specific example? Because that sounds fascinating to me. Like, to me, in my mind, is it a survey that you're offering? Is it a communal gathering where you have people in the community talk about what shows do you want to see? Like, how does that impact? Because that's fascinating to me.
The one of the honest truths about it is the beauty of Belfast and the fact that we live in a walkable community, and we see on any given day, dozens of people that we see them on a daily basis. It's so beautiful to walk to the co-op and talk to people, and walk to the coffee shop and walk to our studio, walk to the library. And so we have a lot of impromptu, we call them just little meetings, with people on the streets who are just like, oh, I saw that play and I loved it, and I had a question about this, and have you ever considered doing something in this location? So it's been really wonderful. Also at our post-show discussions, that's really a beautiful way to connect with our community as well, and hear what they're thinking, and find their reactions for what's happening. And I think that's kind of what I've got.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot about how we make the work, and so you said like, oh, the why now test is like, should it be an industry standard? And I don't really think it should. I mean, I think it should be responsive to the community. I think it should be something that like is deeply connected to like where you are, and try to make the biggest impact for the people that you're with, that the community that you're in. And so I've been thinking about this a lot since you asked us to come on the podcast. And I think the why not test is great. And I think it's the single most important thing you can ask, really. We're now a company of 3. We have a third company member who just joined our company, and that conversation, even with just one more person, is so fruitful and so vital. We keep coming around. Even once we've decided to do work, we say like, okay, wait, why are we doing this? Let's remember, what do we want? How do we want this impact to be? How do we want this to show up? So I think it's absolutely crucial. And at the same time, I'm noticing that the question is shifting a little bit for us. And I think that it should for people making theater today. And that's the how now question. So how we make work, I think, is almost just as important as the work that we choose to do, because the way that we get people engaged is equally important to like the issues that we are engaging them in. And so we feel like we've pulled both of these qualities. The work is important to us, and it's inspiring conversations that we want people to have, but also the specific type of experience that we're giving them is inspiring as well.
Can you think of a moment where there was a show that you really wanted to do, right? And maybe with Countercurrent, like you wanted to do it, and then confronted with the reality of the community, you were like, not now. Like, this is not the right time to do this. I will have to come back to this at a different date, at a different time.
Well, this summer we've been really grappling with what to do this summer, and we stumbled upon um, a couple different plays, and we're thinking, oh, what if we could do one is a two-hander and one is a one-person show? And I had this great idea. What if all three of us company members learned the one-person show? It was Every Brilliant Thing by Duncan Macmillan. And we learned this show and we each put it on. And our audience will have to come. Every show will be different because of all of us. And then we really read through the script. Because another reason about why now, for me specifically, but for all of Countercurrent, is, we do want to take our audiences through a journey, an emotional journey that's real and makes us think, but ultimately ending on a level of hope. I think that's really important right now with our world being so unknown, to really hold um, joy and really support each other in kind of like joy and love. And so this was a beautiful play, but as we read through it, it has so many variables. You are asking audience members to be, your dad and your partner in life and a doctor. And at one point, the performer has to have two audience members holding a keyboard, rotating the keyboard around while the performer's playing music and singing. And we all read the script and said, I think that this is like advanced level participation. I think maybe it's not exactly the right time for that one. But I think it sounds really fun, and I feel like our audience would love it. But I think we need a little bit more training to get to that level.
Yeah, training our audience,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've been to a bunch of immersive events where clearly the people participating within the immersive event were just not prepared for it. And they had definitely crossed some boundaries for that audience member before going in. And so I think it's a really interesting sort of battle of like making sure that your audience is comfortable inside the space that you're creating and allowing themselves to be in that space and, obviously respecting their boundaries. Uh, Given that, do you ever feel like as a result your artistic freedom is limited? Like, for example, like you weren't able to do that show. Oh no, I can't do it. When will I ever do it? Like there's my bucket list. Here it goes. See you later.
I think we have a unique perspective on this because we did make this radical shift from city living to very minimal living. Um, we're really committed to simplicity. And we're also really committed to our hyper local community and creating this little city that we live in as a magnet for the surrounding area. Um, so for me, I'm playing the long game, like I don't get disappointed about the things that I can't do because I feel so close um, to the work and because I, having spent 15 years in a nonprofit regional theater company, having just about every job description you can have, from toilet cleaner to props designer to actor to producer. Um, I'm happy to go at a pace that allows me to have a full life too. I'm getting older. I'm gonna be 45 this year. I have 2 kids. One of them is a teenager now. My priorities are a little bit different, and so I think of it more as a, it's I don't know if this is a great analogy for the audience, but it's more like a scalpel than a sledgehammer, right? If we hit people over the head too hard with the work that we're doing, they're going to get scared away. But if we step them in slowly and we make every piece intentional and as artistically excellent as we can, um, then I think we're going to get more traction that way in the long run. We're going to have people who really care deeply about it, and people who then get excited about what stories they want to be told. So that's like the next step for us. We're putting work out there. We're getting people to take risks. And just now people are saying like, "Oh, well, I'd love to hear something about this," or "I'm really interested in this." And so we're starting to pull in other collaborators in that way too. So yeah, I feel really, really lucky to have found this place in this time of my life. Um, and I'm okay to grow slowly. I think it's the best way.
I definitely want to grow slowly as well. I do have a bucket list for, we just need to find some amazing set designers who are going to hop on. There's so many builders here. I know we're going to get them. We have a big idea for doing Mary Zimmerman's Metamorphosis on a floating dock in a lake. And maybe having the audience on boats. That's like a big one that I would love to do. But I feel similar to John. Just the fact that we're actually here making theater and our community is coming to it and we're selling out shows, that's all I could ever want right now. We're still in the honeymoon phase. We're only a year old. So things might get a little more spicy as we get, a little more seasoned. But right now it just feels so magical to just be able to be making art again.
It really is an exciting thing. And I think there was something, John, that you said about making the art the community needs, I think is such a great and transformative way of thinking about theater, because too often we meet, people who are like, I've got this story that I want to tell, and really creating that collective spirit. Even in collectives, I've seen it otherwise, right? It's like, this is the vision that I have and this must be the thing that I execute. But like organically discovering, I use that word organically lightly, but organically discovering what the community needs and building stories that meet those needs, I think is such a revolutionary way of thinking. And I applaud you for it. It's so exciting to me. And that's what excites me about your work. Um, I think on that note, let's take a little bit of a short break. We'll be right back to talk with John and Courtney from Counter Collective in Belfast, Maine. Hang out. This is Forge Theater Labs. Thanks for listening. Hey there, Josh Hsu again. Want to get your brand in front of a passionate, creative, and engaged audience? Forge Theater Labs is looking for partners to sponsor this podcast and join us in bringing bold, innovative theater to life. If you'd like to place an ad right here, reach out to us at marketing@forgetheaterlabs.com. It's a simple, powerful way to support the arts while sharing your message with listeners who care about creativity and community. Again, that's marketing@forgetheaterlabs.com. Let's build something extraordinary together. And welcome back to Forge Theater Labs. I'm Josh Hsu. I'm your host. And again, today we have Courtney Hayes and John Jurcheck from Countercurrent Collective. I am so excited to have been able to talk to them. And today, unfortunately, our time is running out. So I have questions for you, which is, what's coming up for your next season? What do you have planned?
We were just doing a jogging meeting around town with our company member Madeline, and we were scouting locations for our our summertime show and our fall show. We're gonna do another play, another extant play for the summertime. But then we're shifting into devised work in the fall, and it's a piece that we've been kicking around for a couple of years. And now we feel like we have some momentum behind it. It's called Celebration of the Spirits, and it kind of harkens back to that original immersive theatrical experience, The Haunted House, but with like a literary and local history vibe to it. So pulling stories of the supernatural, of communities that maybe once were here and the traces are thin, and having those spirits return and meet people as they walk through this tour.
That is so incredible, and I'm there for it. You can count on it. I love my wife and I both love a spooky show, and I am right there for it. If I do see actual
Nice.
ghosts, I will go running for the hills, though. So there.
Perfect. No promises.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
Yeah, we have that. And then in the wintertime, we're also devising one other piece right now that is loosely titled Irk Jabab. We don't exactly know. That's an acronym, but really what it is it's an underground resistance society where in this world joy has been outlawed. And we are still in process of creating this and thinking about what exactly this will be. This will be probably a multi-tiered immersive experience for our audiences. There might be a little bit of a one part scavenger hunt, one part performance, and the final part like a workshop to cultivate more joy when joy is being outlawed and suppressed.
And this is kind of taking some of these values that we've talked about up till now to the next level. One of the things we've been talking about as a company recently is how can we provide training for people to resist the things that we are all struggling with right now. So actually creating theater pieces where you feel like you become a part of the group, a part of the ensemble, that there's some sort of initiation process to give people even more agency to coming into this, and then allowing people to go through like a training together. And that really speaks to one of the sort of 30,000 foot goals that we have for our company, which is to create more resilience in our community and strengthen the connection that we have in person with our community. Because we really feel like if you come and you see a Countercurrent Collective show and you take a risk and you get a little more comfortable with being uncomfortable, and then you talk about it with each other about what you shared, then when things happen in the real world, you have the opportunity to look at each other and say, hey, we've done this before. We can stand up together. We can do it again.
Incredible. I think that's a wonderful place to end. You've been listening to John Jurcheck and Courtney Hayes from Countercurrent Collective. You can learn more about them on their website, becountercurrent.com. Where can they find you on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you're using, Blue Sky?
What are those?
John's our resident Luddite. But Instagram, we're at Be Countercurrent. Facebook, we're one word Countercurrent space collective. And yeah, hop online and go to our website and join our newsletter. So we have a wonderful, exciting newsletter that kind of keeps you up to date on everything that we're doing. And we want you to be part of this collective. So yeah, hop on in.
Absolutely. I think this is a great place to end. I'm going to end with one closing question. So since you're inviting people, if you could choose any person to be part of a Countercurrent Collective performance, like any person in the world, living, dead, fictional, who would it be?
I don't know why I think this, but he was the first person who popped in my head, so it must be right. I was going with Liberace.
Fantastic. That's amazing.
I think he would rock. He would rock a countercurrent production.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. John?
I'm gonna pick George Bernard Shaw.
Fantastic.
From what I know about this guy, he was way ahead of his time, and I think he could get down. I think he could get down with the devising workshop and come up with some really cool shit.
I'm going to pick Edgar Allan Poe, but that's just me because you got me thinking about the spooky stuff.
Spooky.
Maybe you can meet him this fall in Belfast.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you so much. This has been Forge Theater Labs. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Forge Theater Labs is produced by Josh Hsu, audio production by Sam Rappaport, intro drum beat by Dave Register, incidental music by Super Order, and closing music by Corey Melanson.